At every military base, there are ghosts. Some wear medals, some wear silence, and some never left, even after the wars ended. He stood at the fence line, scarred, silent, and unknown. Recruits thought he was nobody, a drifter, a leftover, until one of them got close enough to see the truth. A mark burned into flesh, a legacy the Navy tried to bury. This is the story of a man who never spoke, but whose silence taught more than any order ever could. Have you ever met someone like that? Someone who never asked for recognition, but earned your deepest respect without saying a word? Tell us their name in the comments. Let their story live. And if stories like this move you, hit that like button. Subscribe to Unsung Valor Stories and help us keep these powerful voices alive. The SEAL training compound at Breakers Ridge was a place where sweat replaced comfort and orders replaced doubt. Recruits woke each day to a symphony of barked commands, blisters, and exhaustion so deep it lingered in their bones. It was a place where only the unbreakable remained. But one Thursday morning, something unusual happened. He was already there when the first cadences echoed through the field, a man standing alone behind the chain-link fence at the southern edge of the obstacle course. He was tall, built like a carpenter rather than a soldier, with a weather-worn jacket, black jeans, and a wide-brimmed canvas hat that shadowed most of his face. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just stood there, arms folded, one gloved hand resting over the other. At first, everyone thought he was someone's father, or a contractor, or just a local watching with idle curiosity. But as the day went on, his stillness became impossible to ignore. He didn't flinch during the gunfire drills. He didn't move when a recruit fell hard from the rope wall and cried out in pain. He didn't even shift when the instructors berated a late March unit. He just stood there, like a statue watching from another time. Recruits whispered. Instructors pretended not to notice, though they clearly did. It was Meyer, sharp, young, second in his squad, who spotted it first. During a midday hydration break, he happened to glance back toward the fence. The man had adjusted his stance, just enough for his hand to drop beside his hip. That's when Meyer saw it. The man's right hand was gloveless, scarred in a way that didn't look like an accident. A jagged diagonal line ran across the palm, down into the knuckles. The kind of mark you get from gripping a blade too tight in a fight you weren't meant to survive. Meyer squinted. There was something tattooed near the wrist, faded, almost tribal, but cleaner, strategic. It wasn't decorative. It was a unit marking. One Meyer had only seen in blacked-out field manuals passed among instructors late at night. And suddenly, the man behind the fence wasn't just a local. He wasn't a civilian. He was something else entirely. That evening, long after the drills ended and the compound returned to quiet, Meyer stayed behind. He walked toward the edge of the training ground, keeping a respectful distance, but getting close enough to see the man more clearly. "You're watching us?" he said finally, his voice quiet but steady. The man didn't answer. He looked at Meyer once, just once, and something in that gaze felt like it peeled back a layer of reality. It was the look of someone who had once buried brothers with his own hands. "I don't mean to be rude," Meyer tried again, "but are you one of them? From before?" Silence. Then a whisper, barely louder than the wind. "I'm from a unit that doesn't exist, and I'm here to see if what we left behind still knows how to fight." Before Meyer could reply, the man turned and walked away down the service trail. No vehicle, No ID badge, no name. But something had changed, because the next day, 3 instructors broke formation mid-drill to look toward the fence and froze in place. Meyer didn't sleep that night. He tried. He laid on his bunk and counted breaths, heartbeats, drops of sweat rolling down his temple. But his mind kept drifting to the man at the fence. That scarred hand, that cold stare, and those words, "I'm from a unit that doesn't exist." At 0230, Meyer gave up trying. He slipped out of bed, careful not to wake the others, and made his way to the records office annex behind the instructors' building. Technically off limits to trainees, but Meyer had access. He'd been cleared for logistics duty the previous week. He logged in under cover of routine supply check. Nothing suspicious. Except he wasn't here for ammo reports. He typed a phrase slowly into the restricted search bar. Special Operations, disavowed unit markings. Nothing. He tried again, adjusting the terms. SEAL, retired units, deep surveillance, blackout status. One result blinked into existence. Project Sentinel. Status. Terminated, classified, restricted access. He hit enter. Access denied. But the metadata was enough. Attached to the file were 3 partial references. Harrow, T. USS Coral Ash, scrapped 1983. Operation Hollow Wind, Theater, Undisclosed Jungle, 1973. Meyer frowned. He'd never heard of any of it. No Coral Ash in the training manuals. No Operation Hollow Wind listed on the walls of honor. He dug deeper. The base's legacy terminal, ancient but still functioning, sometimes retained declassified or forgotten memos that slipped through clearance gaps. He found a dusty archive tagged Oral History, Internal Only. There it was. A clipped, static-written voice recorded in 1998. They dropped us in with no maps. No communications. We weren't supposed to win. Just last longer than the last team. Harrow was our lead. Didn't smile. Didn't blink. When Stevens got his leg blown off, Harrow carried him 6 clicks through the jungle and didn't say a word. Only time I ever saw him break formation was when we found the village. The way he walked through that fire. Jesus, Meyer sat back, goosebumps crawling up his spine. Harrow, the man at the fence. The Navy had buried him, not literally, but operationally, erased his unit, scrubbed his medals, left him in the footnotes of secret history. And yet, here he was, standing just outside the chain link barrier, week after week, watching them. Why? He returned to the barracks with the sun. The next Thursday, Meyer wasn't the only one looking for Harrow. 2 instructors had adjusted their posture mid-run to glance at the south fence. One of them, the usually unshakable Chief Gardner, actually dropped a cadence halfway through a call-out, because Harrow was there again. Same hat, same jacket, same scarred hand resting gently over the other, like a switch that hadn't been flipped. Yet, Meyer approached him again. "Why are you watching us?" Harrow didn't answer right away. Then he murmured, "We used to stand where you stand now. And one day, we stopped asking if we were ready. We started wondering if the next ones would be." He turned his head slightly. "I'm not here for nostalgia. I'm here to see if you'd survive where we didn't." Meyer felt a chill crawl down his spine. This wasn't about honor. This was about inheritance. He wasn't sure if Harrow had come to pass something on, or to make sure no one ever forgot the cost of carrying it. Thursday returned like muscle memory. The compound buzzed at dawn with shouted cadences, scuffed boots, the dry grind of ropes through gloved hands. But even before roll call, even before the first water break, every recruit knew it. He was there. Thomas Harrow, just beyond the south fence. Same post, same stance, same silence. But this time, something was different. The instructors had changed. Not in their words. They still barked commands and corrected stances, but in their tone. Sharper, less performative. As if something ancient was watching. Not from HQ, not from cameras, but from just over the wire. Meyer could feel it in his bones. He wasn't alone. Recruits had started glancing toward the fence, subtly, respectfully. No questions, no gossip, just awareness. The legend had spread not by words, but by presence. During an afternoon endurance rotation, one of the instructors, a grizzled chief with 19 years of service and a silver star buried deep in his file, broke formation. Without announcement, he jogged to the fence line and stopped 10 feet from Harrow. He stood at full attention. No salute, no nod, just respect. Seconds later, another instructor followed, then a third, then two more. By the time the sun began to dip below the trees, 7 instructors stood in a line across the southern edge of the compound, all facing one man. The recruits didn't need an explanation. They understood. This wasn't for show. This was ritual. Meyer stepped out of formation. Slowly, carefully, he walked toward lane 4, where the plaque had been quietly mounted a week ago. Harrow's eyes flicked to him. Brief, unreadable. "Sir," Meyer began, unsure why he spoke at all. But Harrow turned first. His boots cracked gravel as he approached the gate. He stopped right at the chain-link barrier, a breath away from crossing it. But he didn't. He never did. "You don't need to speak," Harrow said calmly. "You just need to carry it right." "Carry what?" Meyer asked. Harrow looked beyond him, across the training ground. Muddy, loud, chaotic. "This," he replied. The silence, the scars, the expectation. Then for the first time, he extended his scarred hand through the fence. Meyer hesitated, then took it. It wasn't a handshake. It was a transfer. That night, Meyer couldn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't restlessness. It was clarity. By morning, the compound was different. No posters were put up. No speech was made. But every man and woman standing on that course straightened their backs when they passed lane 4. Even the instructors. The next Thursday, Harrow didn't come, nor the next. Whispers began. Some said he was sick. Others claimed he'd left the state. But those who had seen him knew better. Men like Harrow didn't vanish. They faded, deliberately. Quiet exits for quiet legacies. Meyer returned to the fence after final phase training. Just before leaving for deployment, he stood by lane 4, alone. The plaque was still there. And something else, taped carefully to the back, under a strip of black tape, was a coin. One side bore the seal Trident. The other, engraved with words so faint he had to tilt the metal into the sun. "You're ready now." No name, no rank, no farewell, just legacy. Some men are never written in history books. But their silence rewrites every man who follows. He never asked for thanks. He never told his story. But in the stillness of a training field, in the way instructors stood without command, in the way every recruit straightened their spine at lane 4, his presence was felt. His legacy carried forward. Some warriors leave behind statues. Others leave behind silence that reshapes generations. This was Thomas Harrow. And now, you won't forget him either. Subscribe for more stories the world almost forgot, because sometimes the loudest voices are the ones that never speak at all.